The distress call nobody could answer. The distress signal had been screaming across subspace for 17 hours when it reached the Galactic Emergency Response Station. Commander Thexal of the Vorentine species studied the readings with growing horror. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep distress among his people. "This cannot be real," he whispered, his translator device catching the tremor in his voice. His second officer, a crystalline being named Shardax, moved closer to examine the data. "I wish it were not, Commander, but the signature is authentic. The passenger liner Celestial Dream is trapped in a collapsing quantum bubble. 2,000 souls aboard." Thexal felt his chest plates tighten. A quantum bubble collapse was one of the most catastrophic events in space travel. When experimental quantum drives malfunctioned, they created pockets of unstable reality where the normal laws of physics twisted into nightmares. Time moved differently inside. Space folded impossibly. And rescue was considered theoretically impossible. How long before complete collapse? Thexal asked, though he dreaded the answer. 43 standard hours. Maybe less. Shardax's crystalline body dimmed with sorrow. "Commander, our protocols are clear. There is no known technology that can penetrate a quantum bubble without destabilizing further. If we attempt rescue, we risk killing everyone instantly instead of allowing them those final hours." Thexal looked at the list of species aboard the doomed ship. Vorentines like himself. Crystalline beings. The peaceful Melodites. The ancient Kresh. And 17 humans from the recently contacted Earth. Humans, the young species had only joined the galactic community 8 years ago. Thexal had met a few during diplomatic functions. They were strange creatures, emotional and impulsive where most species valued logic and caution. But they had something else too, a stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. "Send a distress call to all nearby vessels," Thexal ordered. "Perhaps someone will have an idea we have not considered." Shardax's light pulsed skeptically, but obeyed. The human ship that shouldn't be there. 6 hours later, a response came from an unexpected source. A small human cargo vessel called the Prairie Dog had changed course and was approaching the quantum bubble. "This is Captain Sarachin of the Earth vessel Prairie Dog." The transmission began. The human's voice was steady, almost casual. "We've received your distress call regarding the Celestial Dream. We're going to attempt a rescue." Thexal nearly fell from his command chair. "Open a channel immediately." The view screen flickered, showing a human woman with short black hair tied back practically. She wore a simple blue jumpsuit covered in tool pouches. Behind her, Thexal could see a cramped cargo bay filled with containers and machinery. "Captain Chun," Thexal said, trying to keep his voice calm, "I appreciate your courage, but you must not attempt this. The quantum bubble will kill you and everyone you're trying to save. This is not cowardice speaking. This is physics. No species has a technology to survive entering a quantum collapse." Sarachin smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was a smile of someone about to do something incredibly stupid and knowing it. "With respect, Commander, no species has a technology yet. But sometimes you don't need the right technology. Sometimes you just need the wrong technology used in the right way." "I do not understand." "My ship is a piece of junk," Sarah said bluntly. 60 years old, held together with spare parts and prayers. "My quantum drive is so badly calibrated that it creates minor quantum fluctuations every time I engage it. Every engineer I've taken this rust bucket has told me I'm flying a death trap." Shardax interjected. "Captain Chun, that makes attempting this rescue even more suicidal. A malfunctioning drive near a quantum bubble. Might resonate with it," Sarah finished. "Look, I'm not a physicist, but I've got Dr. James right aboard. He used to work at MIT's Quantum Research Lab before he decided civilian cargo hauling paid better. He thinks my broken piece of junk might be able to phase match the bubble's frequency." Thexal felt hope and horror warring in his chest. "This is speculation. Theory." "Yeah," Sarah agreed. "But it's theory plus 17 humans who aren't going to sit here and watch 2,000 people die because we're too scared to try something crazy." "You said 17 humans," Thexal noted. That is the exact number aboard the Celestial Dream. Sarah's expression hardened. My sister Emma is on that ship. She's a teacher, taking a group of students on a cultural exchange. So yeah, Commander, I'm biased. But I'm also right. Sitting here doing nothing isn't logic. It's just fear with a fancy name. The impossible becomes barely possible. 12 hours later, Thexal watched from a safe distance as the prairie dog approached the quantum bubble. The sphere of twisted space looked like reality was sick, colors that shouldn't exist swirling in patterns that hurt to observe. Dr. Wright had transmitted his calculations. Thexal's best scientists had reviewed them with growing astonishment. The human's math was insane, literally using the prairie dog's malfunctioning drive to create a counter-resonance that might perhaps stabilize a small corridor into the bubble. The success probability is 0.003%. Shardax had reported. Sarah Chen's response had been, "So you're saying there's a chance." Now Thexal watched as the small human ship positioned itself at the bubble's edge. His sensors tracked power building in the prairie dog's broken drive. The quantum fluctuations Sarah had described became visible as the ship itself seemed to flicker in and out of reality. "Captain Chun, your hull integrity is dropping," Thexal warned. "Yeah, I noticed." Sarah's voice came through. "Strain now. Turns out flying a broken ship into impossible physics isn't comfortable." "Who knew?" The prairie dog touched the bubble's surface. Reality screamed. Thexal's sensors went haywire. For a moment, the human ship simply vanished. Then impossibly was inside. "We're through." Sarah's voice was barely audible through the static. "Holy hell, it worked. I mean, I knew it would work, but I really didn't think it would work. Dr. Wright, you beautiful genius. We're actually inside." Thexal could barely track what happened next. His sensors gave contradictory readings. The prairie dog appeared to be in multiple locations simultaneously. Timestamps made no sense. But through the chaos, he heard Sarah's voice giving calm commands. "Emma, this is Sarah. If you can hear this, get everyone to the starboard docking bay. We're coming for you." Decisions made in fractions of seconds. Inside the quantum bubble, Sarah Chin fought to keep the prairie dog stable. The view through her cockpit window was nightmare fuel. Space bent in ways that made her brain hurt. She'd already thrown up twice. Her co-pilot, Marcus, was bleeding from his nose. "Hull breach on deck 2, Marcus reported, his voice shaking. "We're losing atmosphere." "Seal it. We're not leaving without them." Through her fractured sensors, Sarah saw the Celestial Dream. The massive liner was being torn apart slowly by the quantum forces. Pieces of hull drifted in impossible directions. But her sister was there. Emma and 2,000 other souls who deserved a chance. The docking maneuver was the hardest thing Sarah had ever done. Physics didn't work right here. Thrust in one direction might push you in 3 others. But she'd been flying broken ships through impossible situations for 15 years. This was just one more problem to solve. "Contact," Marcus announced as the docking clamps engaged. Sarah activated the ship-wide comm. "Attention passengers of the Celestial Dream. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Prairie Dog. We're here to get you out. Move quickly, but don't panic. We've got room for everyone." The transfer was chaos. 2,000 beings of different species cramming into a cargo ship designed for 20. Sarah had opened every cargo container, dumped half her freight into space, and converted storage bays into temporary passenger spaces. It was crowded, uncomfortable, and probably violated 1,000 safety regulations. She didn't care. Emma was the last aboard, leading a group of young students. When Sarah saw her sister, alive and crying, something tight in her chest finally released. "You came?" Emma whispered, hugging her. "Of course I came," Sarah said. "You're my sister. What did you think I was going to do?" The exit that shouldn't work. Getting out was harder than getting in. The quantum bubble was collapsing faster now, destabilized by their presence. Sarah pushed the prairie dog to its limits. The old ship groaning under the strain of impossible physics and way too many passengers. "Hull integrity at 15%, Marcus warned. "Just hold together a little longer, baby," Sarah muttered, patting her console affectionately. The exit point was closing. Sarah could see it shrinking through her cracked view screen. They weren't going to make it. The math was clear. Unless... Dr. Wright. Sarah called a physicist strapped into a jump seat behind her. If I overload the quantum drive completely, what happens? We explode, Dr. Wright said immediately. Sarah, no. Or do we create a big enough quantum pulse to punch through? There was a pause. Theoretically, maybe, but Sarah, the explosion. Won't matter if we're outside the bubble when it happens. Marcus, reroute all power to drive. Everything. Life support, gravity, shields, everything. The prairie dog screamed as Sarah pushed the failing drive beyond all safety limits. Reality bent further. Through her window, Sarah saw the impossible. The ship was in two places at once, inside the bubble and outside it. Quantum superposition made visible. Then they were through. The bubble collapsed behind them in a flash of light that sensors couldn't properly record. The prairie dog drifted in normal space, powerless but intact. And aboard, 2,000 souls breathed air they thought they'd never taste again. Thexal's voice came through on emergency power. Captain Chun, how? That was impossible. Sarah laughed, exhausted and exhilarated. Commander, haven't you heard? Humans don't do impossible. We just do really, really improbable and then act like we planned it all along. Part 2. The debt that changed everything. 1,500 words. The aftermath of impossibility. 3 days later, Sarah Chen sat in a medical bay on the Galactic Emergency Response Station, trying to explain for the 100th time how she'd done the impossible. The room was packed with scientists, military officials, and representatives from a dozen species. They all wanted to understand how a broken cargo ship and a stubborn human had accomplished what their advanced technology couldn't. I still do not comprehend, said High Scientist Velterra, a melodite whose body produced soft musical tones with each word. Your quantum drive was malfunctioning. By all known physics, entering the bubble should have torn your ship apart at the molecular level. Sarah sipped the terrible coffee someone had replicated for her. Even bad coffee tasted good when you thought you'd never drink anything again. That's exactly why it worked. Your ships are too perfect, too stable. They couldn't resonate with the chaos inside the bubble because they were trying to maintain normal physics. Dr. James Wright, his arm in a sling from the rescue, pulled up a holographic display. Think it like this. The quantum bubble was like a violent ocean during a storm. A rigid ship would be torn apart by the waves. But our ship was already flexible, already unstable. We rode the waves instead of fighting them. That is insane, declared Commander Thexal, all four of his eyes blinking in sequence. Welcome to human engineering, Sarah said with a grin. We've been making things work that shouldn't since we invented the wheel. Sometimes the best tool for the job is the one that's already broken in interesting ways. The galactic response. The news of the rescue spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Humans, the young species that most galactic citizens barely notice, had saved 2,000 lives using what amounted to duct tape, math, and sheer audacity. The response was divided. Many species celebrated the rescue. The families of those saved aboard the Celestial Dream held vigils honoring the Prairie Dog's crew. Emma Chen students created a documentary about their teacher's sister that went viral across a dozen worlds. But others reacted with fear and resentment. The Kresh Dominion, one of the oldest and most technologically advanced civilizations, issued a formal statement questioning whether humans should be allowed access to quantum technology if they were going to use it so recklessly. They succeeded through luck, not skill, declared Kresh Ambassador Zekthor in a heated Galactic Council session. Next time, such recklessness will kill everyone involved. Humans are too young, too impulsive. They must be restricted from advanced technologies until they prove they can use them responsibly. Sarah watched the broadcast from her temporary quarters on the station. Emma sat beside her, still recovering from the trauma of nearly dying in a quantum collapse. They're scared, Emma said quietly. She'd always been a thoughtful one, the teacher who saw deeper meanings. Not of us failing, of us succeeding. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Explain. Think about it. These species have had thousands of years to develop their technology. They built entire civilizations on the idea that there's a right way to do things, a proper progression, then humans show up and break all their rules. We use broken tools to solve impossible problems. It suggests that maybe their way isn't the only way. So we're threatening their worldview by being too stupid to know when to quit? Emma laughed. Something like that. The offer that changed everything. The debate came to a head 2 weeks later, when Sarah was summoned to appear before the full Galactic Council. She'd never been in the council chambers before. The massive spherical room housed representatives from 83 species, each in their own environmentally controlled section. At the center was a floating platform where speakers addressed the assembly. Sarah stood on that platform in her best clothes, which was still just a clean jumpsuit, and faced the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chun, began High Chancellor Mortek, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell. The Council has reviewed your actions regarding the Celestial Dream Rescue. We have concerns. Here it comes, Sarah thought. They're going to ban humans from quantum technology. Maybe kick us out of the galactic community entirely. Your methods were unorthodox, Mortek continued. Dangerous. By all established protocols. You should have failed catastrophically. Many council members believe your success was mere chance, and that encouraging such recklessness will lead to tragedy. Sarah kept her face neutral. Don't say anything stupid. Don't start an interstellar incident. However, Mortek said, and Sarah's heart jumped. 2,000 lives were saved because you refused to accept the impossible. This council must now address a fundamental question. Were you successful despite your methods, or because of them? The chamber erupted in debate. Some species argued passionately that human recklessness was dangerous. Others countered that 2,000 families had their loved ones back because one human refused to give up. Finally, Commander Thexal requested permission to speak. The Vorentine officer stood in his section, his 4 eyes steady and clear. I was there, Thexal said. I watched every moment of that rescue. I heard Captain Chen's voice as she flew through impossible physics. And I realized something that shames me. He paused. We had declared those people dead before they died. We had accepted their fate because our logic told us rescue was impossible. But Captain Chun did not accept this. She looked at impossible and said, Not today. Thexal's voice grew stronger. Perhaps the human way is reckless. Perhaps it is dangerous. But it is also something we have forgotten. It is hopeful. When did we become so advanced that we stopped trying? When did we become so logical that we lost the ability to attempt the impossible? The chamber fell silent. I propose, Thexal continued, that we do not restrict humanity. Instead, we learn from them. We create a joint program where human ingenuity is paired with our advanced technology, where their recklessness is balanced by our experience, where their hope reminds us why we reach for the stars in the first place. The formation of the Quantum Rescue Initiative. 3 months later, Sarah stood in a brand new facility orbiting a neutral moon. The sign above the entrance read, Galactic Quantum Rescue Initiative Human/Alien Cooperative Program. Beside her stood Dr. Wright, Commander Thexal, and representatives from 20 different species. They were the first members of something unprecedented, a program specifically designed to tackle impossible rescue situations using human creativity and alien technology. This feels surreal, Sarah admitted. 6 months ago, I was hauling cargo and avoiding maintenance inspections. Now I'm running an interstellar rescue program. You are not running it, Thexal corrected gently. We are running it together. That is the point. The facility was impressive. Hangars held ships designed by multiple species, each incorporating human creative solutions into their systems. One ship had redundant backup systems that were intentionally slightly misaligned. Sarah's idea after the prairie dog rescue. Another had what they called chaos drives that could intentionally destabilize quantum fields. It's brilliant, Dr. Wright said, examining a technical schematic. We're building tools that are designed to break in useful ways. Every engineer in the galaxy would have called me insane for suggesting this 3 months ago. They still do, noted Shardax, Thexal's second officer, who joined the program. But now they call you insane while copying your designs. The first mission, their first real test came faster than anyone expected. A mining operation in the Kepler system had accidentally drilled into a pocket of dark matter. The resulting explosion had trapped 43 miners in a collapsed section of asteroid, surrounded by deadly radiation that conventional ships couldn't penetrate. The Galactic Emergency Response Station declared it a recovery operation, retrieved the bodies when radiation levels dropped in 6 months. Sarah looked at her new crew, humans and aliens working side by side. So, who wants to go tell those miners they're not actually dead yet? The rescue took 18 hours. They used a combination of human shield shunt technology, which basically redirected radiation in random directions instead of blocking it, and Vorentine phase shift systems. It should have killed everyone involved. Instead, all 43 miners were brought out alive. "How did you know it would work?" asked one of the rescued miners, a Kresh who'd been certain she'd die in that asteroid. Sarah shrugged. "Honestly, I didn't, but I knew doing nothing wouldn't work. So we tried something. That's kind of our thing. The quantum debt." A year after the Celestial Dream rescue, Sarah received a message from Emma. Her sister had written a book about the experience, titled The Quantum Debt, How Humanity Paid Back the Galaxy. Sarah read through it one evening in her quarters on the new initiative station. Emma had interviewed dozens of survivors, capturing their stories of those terrifying hours inside the collapsing bubble and their joy at rescue. But the final chapter was what made Sarah cry. Emma wrote, "When humanity joined the galactic community, we were the young species, the newcomers who had nothing to offer civilizations millions of years older than us. They gave us technology, knowledge, and access to the stars. We owed them everything. But my sister taught me that we had something to give back, not technology or knowledge, but perspective. We reminded them that sometimes the impossible is just the difficult that no one's tried yet. We showed them that hope isn't logical, but it's necessary. The 2,000 souls saved that day represent more than a successful rescue. They represent a debt paid in full, not with money or technology, but with the most human trait of all, the stubborn refusal to accept that anyone should die just because saving them is hard. That is humanity's gift to the galaxy. And in accepting our help, the galaxy gave us a gift in return. They let us prove that being young and reckless isn't a weakness. Sometimes it's exactly what the universe needs." Sarah closed the book and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone was in trouble. Someone needed help that seemed impossible to give. And Sarah Chun, captain of the universe's most successful broken ship, was ready to prove once again that impossible was just another word for not tried yet. Epilogue. 5 years later, the Galactic Quantum Rescue Initiative had conducted 127 successful missions. They'd saved lives in quantum collapses, dark matter storms, dimensional rifts, and situations that didn't even have names yet. But more importantly, they'd changed how the galaxy thought about problems. Other species started creating their own human-inspired programs, intentionally building in flexibility, encouraging creative solutions, rewarding people who thought outside the established patterns. Commander Thexal, now Director Thexal of the initiative, stood beside Sarah as they christened their newest ship. It was called the Prairie Dog 2, built with both the most advanced alien technology and the most jury-rigged human systems anyone had ever seen. "You know," Thexal said, his translator catching the warmth in his voice, "when I first met you, I thought humans were going to get everyone killed with your recklessness." Sarah grinned. "And now I think humans are going to save everyone, and we'll all survive your recklessness together." He paused. "Though I still believe your coffee is terrible." "It's an acquired taste," Sarah said. "Kind of like us." As the Prairie Dog 2 launched on its first mission, carrying a crew of humans and aliens working together to save lives no one else thought could be saved, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. 3,000 years of galactic civilization, and it took one broken ship and one stubborn human to remind everyone of something simple. Hope isn't logical, but it's what makes the impossible possible. And sometimes that's exactly what the universe needs.